Series 1 of the Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast is powered by Enterprise Nation, providing expert support for small businesses in the UK.
Welcome to episode 7 of Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast. This week we're going to be talking about navigating networks with Leisa. Tell us more, Leisa.
Well, thank you for that. So this is quite an interesting title, isn't it? Navigating networks. And I could have called this a number of things. And in fact, the initial title for this particular episode was about man marking. And then I thought, we might actually lose some of our listeners because they might think all of a sudden we've started to talk about football. So we've come back to navigating networks. And I'll talk you through what I mean by that. So this is in the context of sales. Obviously, this is a sales episode. This is a sales and marketing podcast. And this is about building your network. So your sphere of influence within the potential customer or client that you want to do business with. Let me just explain what I mean by that. So it is really dangerous and really not advisable to build your whole relationship, interaction, way of doing business with a particular business centered around one person. So you, as the business owner, the account manager, the sales director, dealing exclusively with your counterpart within the business that you are doing business with. The reason is people move on. People don't always see eye to eye. So actually, if you are putting all of your eggs into that one basket and that relationship breaks down, essentially you've got to start from scratch. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples because some of you are probably thinking, well, that's all very well and good, but I'm a one-person business. How can I expand my sphere of influence within that organisation when it's just me? But I want to give you some examples of how you absolutely can do that, both as a one-person business and as a bigger business that has a team of colleagues working around you. So let's start with an example. So I had an interaction with a client a few weeks ago and she was telling me about how she'd secured a new wholesaler for her product. So she was very excited about that. It was a step change in her business, which meant that she was going to be able to finally get her product into more locations. She'd met the buyer and she was due to go back to this particular business to meet the buyer again. So she was telling me that she went to meet the buyer and unfortunately, the buyer was delayed in another meeting. So rather than sit in reception, she asked if it was possible for her to go through and spend some time with the sales department. So they were like, yeah, sure, because obviously they felt a bit bad, didn't they, that she was potentially going to be sitting in reception for an hour. So yeah, they said, yeah, why not come through? So they let her go through into the sales department where she sat, she had a coffee, she chatted with them, she talked about her business. You know, this is one-to-one. This is her sitting alongside one of the telesales operatives who would essentially be taking orders for her product from their customers. And she got to know that department. She got to know how they work. She got to know the days that they make calls, to take orders. Yeah. She got to know that, they always call so-and-so on a Tuesday at 2:00 because that's when they're winding down for the day, etc. But this is the best bit. They shared customer data with her. So customer data in the sense of these are some amazing customers who we can't wait to talk to about your product. So they were really seeing the benefit of her spending time with them to get to know who they were, what they did, what their job role was, how they would be working with her to grow her brand and ultimately grow their business. And in return for her taking the time to get to know them, they exchanged information with her. This wasn't sensitive information. This was just information that would help her because actually working together was of mutual benefit to both businesses. So now, new relationship, which was centered exclusively around her and the buyer, now expands to multiple departments. So she knows the lady on reception. She knows the lady on reception who she knows her name. She knows how to say hi. She knows 3 people in the sales department. She knows the person who popped in and made her a cup of coffee. So her sphere of influence now within that organisation is more than just one person. And that is really important. Now, I'm going to give you another example. So when we contact prospects on behalf of clients, so typically we're doing this over the telephone, we would phone up and say, hi, it's Leisa from, etc., etc. And the person would say, oh, no, you need to call back and speak to the manager. So then I would say, OK, so who is the manager? And they tell me. And then I always say, and what's your name? Because then when I call back, I'm able to say to the manager, oh, I spoke to Julie on Tuesday. Yeah. But now I know Julie, who works on the shop floor. Yeah. I know the manager, who's called John. Already, I know 2 key players within that business. So again, I'm starting to grow my sphere of influence. So that's an example of how you can use your telephone interactions to build a picture of the individuals that work in that business. If you're doing it on email, it's still possible. So I think I shared this with you recently, Vic, and to me, this is sort of straightforward of what we do. But you said, oh, I never even thought of that. So, when you send emails and you get an out of office, usually you get an out of office and it says, hi, I'm away on holiday till blah, blah. For inquiries relating to the shop, contact da, da, da. For inquiries relating to goods in, contact da, da, da. Now, do you actually do anything with that information?
No, I would normally just delete it. And I loved what you said.
So you need to add this to your CRM system, add it to your spreadsheet. So now you know the name and the contact information for the person in goods inwards. You know the name and the contact information for the person that deals with the orders for the shop. Again, you're starting to build this network within this one business. So imagine you found this business that you want to speak to about your products or services. You've called them. They've told you their name and the name of the boss. You've then emailed them because that person who gave you the name of the boss has also given you the boss's email. And now you know goods in, the shop, the finance department. So in 2 interactions, so this is building on your, similar to your touch points. In 2 interactions, you now know 5 individuals in that one business. And you could be saying, oh, well, that's all well and good, but only one of them has the ultimate decision-making authority. Yeah, that's true. But these are all people that you can pick off. Sorry, that sounds really awful. To get to that decision maker and actually really start to demonstrate that you are interested in and keen to understand more about that business. So what I do quite often is I also have sort of one day a month where I do what I call like a field visit day. So I will pop out to actual various outlets that we've been contacting and introduce myself and find out. So again, I would get to know the person who works in the cafe, the person who works behind the butchery counter, whatever that looks like. I'm using a farm shop as an example. So again, I'm really building my contacts and navigating the network of that one particular business to demonstrate I'm getting to know them and I know a lot about them, but also ensuring that if the person who I am dealing with is off sick, leaves, moves on, I can pick up the phone to somebody else and find who their replacement is. So that's really important. So that's how you can use your ability to navigate networks as a single person business to actually build a fuller picture of the business that it is that you're wanting to do business with. And I think as well, just to build on that slightly before I move on, is this really helps in your email communications as well, because this gives you something new to talk about. So this gives you the opportunity to say, oh, I visited on this day and noticed this. So again, it demonstrates that you have a level of interest and that you want to get to know that business, and actually you're doing your homework essentially. If you're working in a business as a sales professional, and you are doing business with another business which is of a similar size to yours, the chances are that you're going to be one of many members of a team which looks after that one particular customer. So let me give you an example. When I worked for Mars Confectionery, I was part of the Asda sales team. So we as a sales team were looking after Asda as an account. So we were one team of, there must have been definitely 10 of us, possibly more. And Asda had the same. So you think we are one business doing business with another business, yet there are 20 plus people involved in that business interaction. And each of us had our own sphere of influence. So each of us had our own contact matrix, for want of a better word, or men that we wanted to mark, or women. But that was really, really important because people don't always get on, as I've said. So if your interaction with that business is all centered around two people, then that is a really dangerous position to be in.
It could be make or break.
Absolutely. And that did and does happen. So as a team of individuals, all working on one account or working with one business, we all had our equivalent within, in this instance, Asda, and it was our responsibility to build and nurture that relationship because we all had a really clear role to play in delivering the ultimate objective, which was to work collaboratively to grow both businesses. So it's really important, if you're a bigger business, to allow your team to make those connections. So don't be greedy as the business owner or the person within the business of the highest level of seniority, and don't be arrogant, is that a right word, to think that it's all about you, because it really isn't. Do you know what? Being able to say to your customer, oh, so-and-so in such and such a department has spoken to their equivalent in, makes your business look bigger, makes your business look much bigger than it actually is, and also makes them aware that you are building bridges, building relationships, building inroads, which ultimately are going to make their job a lot easier. So it's really important that you do that. And it's really important that you allow that to happen within your business and within your team. Encourage your team, give your team permission to actually build those relationships and really nurture them, because ultimately it's going to make your job a lot easier. So I think just in terms of this navigating networks and man marking, and how man marking when it's one-on-one is actually really dangerous, is that the reason we're doing this is because we want to always be knowing as much as we can possibly know about that business that we're dealing with. And this is so interlinked with a lot that we've talked about in terms of touch points, making yourself visible, generating desire and interest, is that actually if businesses are really working together well and collaboratively, there should be no secrets. There should be no problem with you having access to somebody within a department, which is going to help grow, foster and nurture the working relationship. So I would really encourage you as a one-person business to get out, get into whatever outlet it is that you need to go into to build up a picture of that particular customer. Regardless of whether you're a single person business or you're a business with multiple individuals all working for one or on behalf of one customer, don't overlook any person or any role within any department that is going to help you do better business. So I used the example earlier about the lady on reception. They're all really important. So you need to be, I mean, how amazing when you turn up for a visit and you say, "Hi, Sue, how's it going? How's the grandson? You know, how was your holiday?" Blah, blah, blah. And this is just people being interested in people. And actually, it just makes for a better experience. You know, hopefully you're going to spend a lot of time with interacting with, engaging with, liaising with these businesses. Get to know them. And more importantly, when you do get to know them, make sure you capture that information and you use it within your communications and your interactions. You know, show interest. Some people are going to be more interested, more willing to share openly than others. But actually, the more you know, the more it makes your life easier.
So one thing that I'm thinking as you're saying all of this is that sometimes you can, as a business owner, you can not be in the room when there are people from that company that buy from you are all together. So they might be sat around a table having a weekly meeting and deciding which products they're going to list, or deciding what companies, where they're going to invest their money in marketing, or whatever it is that they're doing. They've got to have some decisions as a team. And there might be people, as you're saying, there might be people in different departments that are heads of departments that go to that meeting and make them decisions together. So if somebody says, "Oh yeah, no, I saw such and such, she came in the other day actually, oh, she's just launched a brand new range, oh yeah, no, I've heard about the new range, yeah, no, it looks really good, we'll have to get some samples in," you know, and then they're having that conversation between themselves. So like, you know, you were saying, if you're, you know, your example that you gave where the lady walked in and then she spoke to lots of different people while she was waiting for the meeting, that you never know what they're then going to say about you to each other, and how that can be talking about your product without you even being there.
Absolutely.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I just think we all like to be made to look good, don't we? So isn't it amazing that you could actually be providing information to somebody that is going to make them look good in that scenario that you've just talked about, so that they can actually speak with authority about your business without actually having to do the work.
Amazing.
So one thing I probably should mention, and probably should have done so earlier on in the episode, is about understanding the positions within organisations that your key decision makers hold. So let me give you an example. I had a customer, or a client rather, who wanted me to help them reach HR professionals within organisations across a specific geographical area. They had a product that was a corporate wellbeing product, so they wanted more businesses to be aware of and buy into this service that they were providing. And they said to me, "Can you help us get to or find HR professionals within this type of business, within this type of location?" And I said to them, "Well, it's not my normal sort of bag, but I'll give it a go," sort of thing. So we built a really clear specification in terms of size of business, type of business, location of business, how many years they'd been in business. And then we got to the point of, right, well, who is actually going to be the decision maker in this business? So who is the person who says yes versus the person who actually has the budget? Because they're not always the same person. And we were talking very much in language that we identified ourselves. We were talking about HR director or head of human resources or whatever that looks like, where the reality was that these were not the people that we needed to be speaking to, because actually they were probably in roles too senior to the ones that we actually needed. So yes, ultimately they were the ones that oversaw the department, but they weren't necessarily the ones that actually made the decision on the services that were bought in. So what we thought, so we just brainstormed a few, right, what could these positions be? And the one that we came up with was head of people.
Oh,
I know. And it turns out that this is actually quite, this is not a new thing. So we haven't uncovered something that wasn't already that didn't already exist. And what that meant was, when we phoned these businesses to ask for this particular person, we were able to speak their language. So we were able to say, can I speak to, or I'd like to send some information to your head of people. And I think just having that little insight, and don't get me wrong, it didn't work with every business, because some businesses were still working on the,
traditional
exactly. But actually, when you get through to a business that says, can I speak to your head of people? And they actually have a head of people, then that is actually really powerful. So I think before you start to really navigate these networks and really start to sort of sprinkle your fairy dust all over the various departments and the people within them, it's important to understand what positions these people might hold, because then you can actually speak about the position rather than the person. So you're not phoning to speak to Joe, who doesn't actually exist. You're phoning to speak to the head of people, who absolutely does exist, and you need to find out who that is. That brings us to the end of today's episode. I hope I've given you some food for thought and highlighted the importance of maximising your sphere of influence and being able to navigate the networks of the businesses and the customers that you do business with. Getting close to them will ultimately enable you to do better business together. So make sure you know as many people as you need to know to get the job done.
Don't forget to follow us over at Scale Up Podcast on Instagram for behind the scenes footage and access to additional resources to help you master your own sales and marketing.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.